everybody. Welcome back to your Full Tilt podcast. This is Tech Industry Leadership Talks. I am Dawn Zoldi, your host, and this week we have another incredible guest with us, Jennifer Richter, partner at Akin Gump Strauss Hauer and Feld. That's a law firm for those of you that don't know that. And, I'm so excited to be speaking with Jennifer today. So welcome, Jennifer.
Thanks, Dawn. Really, really happy to be here.
I'm an attorney. I think most people that follow me know that. And, Jennifer and I were talking before we came on the show. We've had so many folks that are CEOs of companies, entrepreneurs. We even had Hui Tran from NASA, right, leading a government agency. I think it's really unique, Jennifer, to have a partner from a law firm on the Leadership Podcast. And so to set the stage before we get into your theme and your background and your journey, can you tell us a little bit about, what it means to be a partner at a law firm, just so people have an appreciation, understanding of that?
Yeah, you bet. And thanks for that question. I realize sometimes that when we introduce ourselves, people probably have no idea what it means to do what we do. So I lead the telecom, media, and technology practice here at Akin. So there are a group of about a dozen lawyers that are working with a whole variety of companies on a variety of kinds of work. And I'll cover both of those things in just a moment. But in addition to leading that group, which involves obviously managing all of the people in the group and the work and making sure it's all getting done to client satisfaction, I also sit on the Partnership Admissions Committee, where we evaluate partners coming into the firm, whether they're homegrown or coming from outside. I sit on the Regulatory Steering Committee. We've got a massive regulatory practice here. We're number one in government relations. Akin Gump is here in Washington, D.C. For lobbying and, influencing government to achieve our client goals. Our regulatory practice is even bigger than our lobbying practice. So there's just a lot of work to be done to steer that in the right direction and help bring those groups maybe a little bit closer together. I also sit on the technology initiative for the firm, and I as you said, on the website and branding redesign committee. So, when you have leadership skills, there's no lack of things that people will find for you to do. And then, in our group, so we do transactional work, regulatory work, policy work for all different kinds of technology, media, and telecom clients, which also includes advanced aviation and autonomous systems for our practice. And so that's clients not only in this whole autonomy world, but wireless clients, satellite clients, fiber optics, broadcasting, towers. We just did a really interesting project on the metaverse, smart cities. So it's really varied. Which is good because I never want to get bored.
Well, no doubt about that. And I wanted people to kind of appreciate the scope and scale of what you do, the fact that on a daily basis, not only are you managing your own team, but you're very involved in the management of this very, very significant and large law firm. And Jennifer, you picked the theme of, I'm looking at my notes here, leading technology work by embracing and coaching curiosity. And I would love to pick your brain a little bit about what you mean by that. What is that leading technology work by embracing and coaching curiosity? Why did you pick that theme, and what does it mean to you?
Yeah, so, in the 31 years that I've been practicing law in this area, telecom and technology, I've seen massive changes, societal changes, because of the amazing new kinds of ways that we all communicate with each other and the new technologies that are available. So when I started, if you were a telecom lawyer, you might do broadcasting work, or cable was actually just starting then, or you might do some satellite work. But wireless didn't exist. It wasn't a thing. It wasn't an industry, and nobody had cell phones, right? I mean, some people had fat phones in their cars, right? That was it
Yeah.
in terms of mobile service. So um, I really grew up. My first job in a law firm was working with this weird wireless practice. Nobody knew what it was, and licenses had just been lotteried by the FCC. And we were working with the very first companies building wireless networks across the country. Um, the internet wasn't even really being used at that point, right? This is back in 1991, 92, 93, in there, right?
Yeah.
People had just started using the internet. There wasn't broadband. We were using dial-up service. Think about that, right?
Yeah.
So so my career really has been marked by having to learn all new kinds of technologies as we've moved along. And for a lawyer in this, and for a leader and a business person in this industry, that means you've got to lean in and really learn it. You've got to read the engineering reports, and if you don't understand it, find engineering friends who are going to help you understand it. You've got to get out from behind your desk, and you've got to go to trade shows and talk with people who are inventing technology. Um, this is really important. And so when I'm coaching my own team, I'm saying to them, get out of the office, go learn, be part of the community, ask business people what they're working on, and really try to understand it. And so that you can walk the walk and talk the talk with these people so that you can earn their trust and confidence that you actually understand their business, understand their technology, and can effectively do the legal work. So curiosity is king, and it's necessary in this field, right? I mean, we all just have to keep learning all the time. And we're lucky, we're fortunate.
No, it definitely makes for the fact that it's never a dull moment because I think there is always something to learn. And I love that you tell your people, get out from behind your desk, get out of the office and meet people and meet your clients and the technologists where they are and really engage with them. I think that's huge. Speaking of engaging everybody, we know you're out there, so please engage with us in the chat. We would love to hear your positive encouragement, know where you're from, and certainly if you have any questions for Jennifer, she is one of the world-renowned experts on spectrum and so many other things in telecoms and emerging technologies. But Jennifer, before we really kind of dig into your career, because you already talked a little bit about when you started, there wasn't really much of an internet. I want to go back even further because I love digging a little bit into people's past because obviously, how you grew up and your past really shapes who you are today. And so let's talk about the beginning there. Like, where are you from originally? Like, where did you grow up, and how did that like influence your own curiosity?
uh, I love to talk about where I come from. So I am from a small town in Wisconsin called Menomonee Falls. It's a suburb of Milwaukee. And I grew up in an Irish Catholic family of five girls. I'm the fourth of five girls. My dad was a president of the church council, and my mom was the leader of religious education in our town. And it was an amazing growing up experience. And I think you might have one picture of my little neighborhood. Yeah, there it
Yeah, I
is.
love this. And you were
And
talking, Jennifer, you said this is like all the kids in your neighborhood. You're coming up here at the bottom. There you
yeah,
are,
and this
wiping your
is
face on the far left, I think.
yeah, and that row on the bottom, me, Richie, Monica, and Timmy. And then anyway, we're still in touch with each other, by the way. Um,
Wow.
we and there were many, many more kids than this. We were just able to run. We had a beautiful park near our neighborhood. We lived on Manchester Drive in Menomonee Falls, and we were able to walk to school together. It was very safe. Everybody's parents were our parents. It was really I wouldn't say magical, but it was a really great growing up experience. Yeah, so Menomonee Falls, Wisconsin. And growing up in a family of five girls was really impactful because, our dad was a huge supporter of us, as our mom was. There was never any gender difference to think about. We were just taught that we could do anything. right? And if you put your mind to it, you can do anything. And
Yep.
discipline was like so important. A lot of gymnastics, a lot of practicing. So yeah, it was a great way to grow up because I never knew limitations, and certainly not because of my gender.
I love that, and the encouragement you got from your family and your parents. By the way, Jennifer, Daniel Lines is out there, and when you earlier it said earning trust and confidence, he said that's one of the best statements I've heard in quite some time. So you got a fan out there in Daniel. So thank you for your comment, Daniel. And again, for those out there, we love comments like that and positive encouragement and questions. But so there you were in your neighborhood, Menominee Falls, Wisconsin, and growing up with a really cool neighborhood. And I guarantee you, with all those kids, there was a lot of curiosity going on out there and exploration, and as you said, gymnastics and whatnot. Were there any formative events that you look back and say, that was like a turning point, or that this one thing, when I was growing up really kind of was impactful in shaping who I am today?
Yeah, for sure. So when I was 13, our family moved from Wisconsin to a suburb of Chicago, to Barrington, Illinois.
Oh,
And
wow.
my dad was a chemical engineer, and he worked with a subsidiary of Colgate Palmolive on, inventing packaging for their various products. Really smart guy. And within a year and a half, he died of a heart attack.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so our family had to move back, or decided to move back to Wisconsin. Both the experience of moving between eighth grade and my freshman year, and then moving
Yeah.
between my sophomore and junior years, and then, of
Yeah.
course, the total upheaval of our family at such a young age, and really understanding that nothing is guaranteed, were super impactful events for me. And I think taught me that change is constant,
Yeah.
which is interesting because it's certainly something that I found in my career. And I think knowing that I could and did roll with it, I adapted, kind of kept going. I was never a stranger anywhere. I had to learn to meet new people and fit in and adapt,
Yeah.
right? These things were so important to me. And I don't think that I could have survived my first set of conferences, as a young lawyer, had I not had those experiences.
Yeah.
I just really, learned to adapt and be as outgoing as I needed to be to connect with people.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I can't even imagine, right? Because like that transition just between eighth grade and high school is a nightmare
Yeah,
on a good day under perfect circumstances, right?
yeah.
Like middle school to high school is like, I think it's just a very difficult time for most kids to transition,
Yeah.
and then to lose your dad in the midst of that, to move from a place like that sounds like such a tight-knit community with all of your neighborhood friends of Menominee Falls to a suburb of Chicago, and all of that upheaval, and then like having to move back in such a short order. I could see where, well, let's put it this way. I think it speaks volumes to your parents, Jennifer, that you were able to kind of bounce back and be so resilient under all of those circumstances. I mean, having let's just say grown, raised my kids in the military, moving constantly is one of those things that is very traumatic for kids. And and I think there's long-term impacts to that. But I love that you look back and see positive in that experience, and that you were able to, as you said, roll with it and kind of move on. Let's talk a little bit about your education then, because it sounds like you went from Wisconsin to Chicago, suburb of Chicago, back to Wisconsin just for high
Mhm.
school. And then at some point, obviously, you went to college. Tell us about that. And how did this choice come? Like, I'm just going to go to law school. I love to hear people's stories on that. I know what mine is, but I would love to hear yours.
Yeah. So when I went to college, my very first broadcast regulation class turned my brain on. I was so fascinated with the professor and with the subject area. and decided that I was going to study what was then called mass communications. I don't even know if mass communication so much exists anymore. There's so much individual communication, but mass communication. So I decided that I would study that, and with an emphasis on journalism and regulation. Um, while I was studying that, I was actually working for the University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee, which is a huge urban campus, and I was putting on special events there. So, and it happened to be an election year when I was like coming into my junior, senior time. It was an election year, and all of the major candidates were coming through Milwaukee and giving speeches on the campus, and I was helping to program those things, which was amazing, right?
Yeah.
Al Gore, Jesse Jackson,
Oh,
you name it, they
wow.
all came through. And then I was also in charge of a political, like a lunchtime political series. We called them the popcorn forum. So people would come at lunch and we'd have popcorn, and they would hear from politicians or social movers in our community, and we would talk about issues of the day. So it caught the attention of one of the chancellors at the university. I don't even know her name. And I really wish that I did, because this woman sat down with me and she said, "What do you think you want to do next?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, I think I want to teach." And she said, "I think you should think about law school." There are no lawyers in our family.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I took a weekend course trying to figure out how you take the LSAT, and I took it, and I did so well that I got a scholarship. I mean,
Wow.
it was just somebody had to just plant the bug, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so then and at the time there were only 3 places where I could get my law degree, and I wanted to get my master's in mass communications, and it happened to be an information policy course as well. 3 places at that time. It was Catholic here in town in DC, Drake University, which was in my backyard in the Midwest, and then Pepperdine out in California. So Drake offered me a scholarship. It was close to home ish. And so that's where I went for my law degree and my master's degree, which really was super helpful to me in distinguishing myself here in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I love that. There's so many times that a person will appear in our lives, and just that one conversation will have such an impact, like this person had on you.
Yeah.
Because law school was not something you were even really thinking about until that conversation, and
No,
look where
right.
you are now. Yeah,
And this woman took a minute out of her, what was, I'm sure, a really busy schedule to ask me to come to her office and to mentor me. I mean,
yeah.
it was just really amazing.
That is amazing. And so this is great. And I just, Jennifer, I'm listening to you and I'm cracking up because you're like, oh, I was running these events in college and whatnot. Like I did kind of the same thing. I didn't have someone that pulled me aside and said, go to law school. I had someone that pulled me aside and said, you should be a history major, because that's a whole different conversation I'm not going to get into. But I was good at it, I enjoyed it, and I did. But then I was like, well, now what do I do? Like, what do you do with a history major, for God's sakes? So that's when I'm like, I'll just take the LSAT. But unlike you, I didn't take a course. I didn't do so spectacular on it, but I did get to law school. And man, what a journey that was. I loved your thoughts on law school, because I don't, unless you survived law school, I'll just put it that way. I think that's a good way to phrase it. I don't think people understand what it's really like to be in law school. It's a total different way of learning and thinking, and they almost like scramble your brain and then like reassemble it.
Yeah.
What was your experience like at Drake?
Yeah, it is boot camp, right? They build you
Yeah.
down, they break you down to build you up, right?
Yeah.
So I had no idea what to expect, and as a journalism major, I did more writing than reading. I couldn't believe like the 300, 400 pages we had to read in the first few days of law school.
Yeah.
There was a steep curve in learning how to learn that kind of material and to digest it and to retain it.
Yes.
But it is amazing once you train your brain to do it, how good you can get at it.
Yes.
That did not come right away. And I would say my first semester, my grades were fine, not great. And they were better my second semester. And then by my second year, I really got it. And I just, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I had, and then it was challenging because I had my law classes and my master's classes, and I had to figure out a way to get it all done in 3 years, which required a little bit of summer school.
Wow. So
And
you
then I
did your
had,
master's simultaneously with your law degree. I did my master's simultaneously with my undergraduate degree.
oh, wow.
Um,
How did you do that?
I was at the University of Scranton, and it was in the history department, and that was another reason why Dr. D. Michelle, God love him, he just celebrated 50 years of teaching and retired, and sent me a note, and they have a scholarship in his name now that I contribute to. But they had a program where you take these night classes that were towards your master's degree, and there was a little bit of overlap. There was pretty significant papers I'd have to write, and then a comprehensive exam. So I was able to simultaneously get my, bachelor's and master's in history, but again, it was just
Wow.
like, now what? Okay, a law school it is, so, and like you, I had a similar experience. So I would love to know like what jobs you got, right? Because for those that don't know, law school, Jennifer just mentioned, her grades were okay for first year. My grades were like the worst grades I ever had in my life, because it was so radically different. And what happens in law school is that first year, your grades kind of determine in a way your trajectory, because firms start hiring people really right after your first year, and things like that. So I had some great opportunities really through relationships that my parents had, some introductions I got. But I would love to hear your journey. Like, did you intern somewhere, or were you working at a court, at a law firm? Like, what was that kind of work journey in tandem with your master's degree and law degree?
Yeah. Thank you. These are great questions. When I was in law school, I got a job working for a small insurance defense firm called Housing
Ah, me too.
and Drake,
Yep.
in Des Moines, and that was great experience learning how to, draft litigation papers and all of the research and everything that goes into that and the writing, and I really enjoyed that. So I worked for them during the school year. Then I realized that if I really wanted to work in communications law, I was going to have to be in Washington, D.C. And I had to find a way to get to Washington, D.C. So I actually filled out all this paperwork to get a summer internship in Washington, D.C. I don't even know if this process still exists. I think it was called the SF 171. Anyway, I filled out the form, said that like maybe the FCC was my first choice and the Department of Transportation was my second choice, and I don't even know what else I said. Um, the Department of Labor called me and
Wow.
offered me an internship for the summer. Totally volunteer, nobody's paying me any money. But
Sure.
it happened that one of my colleagues from Drake was working at the United States Sentencing Commission, and they needed summer law clerks, and he got me a paying job there. So I was able to split my time between the Department of Labor and the United States Sentencing Commission. I was a week or two into my internship at at Labor,
Yeah.
and my phone rang in my office, and it was somebody from the FCC, from the Federal Communications Commission, which is really where I wanted to work.
Yeah.
He said, I called your apartment in Des Moines and some guy answered. I said, oh yeah, I've got subletters and they gave me this number. I hope it's okay. This is before cell phones, everybody. Like
Yeah.
there was no, this is like the old fashioned way dialing people.
Yep. Yep.
Anyway, he found me at the Department of Labor and he said, your application was underneath a pile. I think you look great. I think you should come over here and talk with us. And I was like, ooh, I'm committed to do this work at
I
Labor.
mean, you're already working two jobs at this point.
Yeah, but he said, really, you should come over and let's talk. And I did. And then I went back to the Department of Labor and said, I'm so sorry. Thank you for this opportunity. That working at the FCC is really what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I quit the Department of Labor and I joined the Federal Communications Commission. And that was pivotal in my career.
Well,
Um,
clearly it was, because I mean, you're such an expert in that area of law, and to have, you know, kind of get your foot in the door so early in your career when you were still in law school. So, so did you continue working there like other summers, or like how did you jump from like these internships and this great
Yeah.
experience at the FCC to like a law firm legal practice?
Yeah. So that was my summer between my second and third year.
Yeah,
So it then happened that at the United States Sentencing Commission, where I was working for pay, there
yeah.
was a young female commissioner, Julie Carnes, who needed a law clerk for the next fall.
Mm.
And so I interviewed with her, and she gave me a job before my third year of law school started. I knew that I was coming back to DC, which I was really grateful for because I knew that I had to be in DC in order to be able to pursue my dream of working in telecommunications law. So I took this job doing criminal work. So
Yeah.
I did that. I came to DC after law school, and then just a few months into that clerkship, Julie Carnes was appointed to the federal bench for the Northern District of Georgia.
Oh, wow.
She's a federal judge. She's amazing. And then I had the opportunity to look around here in DC and applied for an associate job with a law firm called Pepper and Corazzini. They were a small telecom boutique.
Hmm.
And it happened that one of the partners at Pepper and Corazzini used to work at the FCC in the audio division where I had been doing my summer internship.
Yeah.
People knew each other, and I was able to get great recommendations, and they hired me. Oh my God, I was so lucky. So I was not a year out of law school yet, and I really had the job that I wanted to do and started to work in this weird wireless space.
I love that. And so I know we have some pictures. I don't know if any of these pictures are at this early in your career.
Oh yeah, no, there were no pictures from earlier
No, no
from 30
pictures in the
years
early
ago.
days. So there you were at this little boutique, you know, firm working on the issues that you love to work on. You know, at what point did you kind of transition over to Akin, or what, were there other firms in
Oh,
between, or
oh,
how did that work?
yeah. So I wasn't quite a third year associate, like a third year lawyer for those of us not in the legal profession. And I got a call from a CEO of a company called Wireless Broadcasting Systems. The same people who started Waste Management and Blockbuster and Boston Chicken, like there's an investor group,
Okay.
they wanted to dabble in this weird wireless thing. And so they hired a guy Bill Kingery, who was a cable executive.
Hmm.
And he hired an executive team, and he came to Washington, D.C. to meet me. And by the end of breakfast, offered me a job as general counsel of a wireless company. And I was not even a third year lawyer yet. I mean, I was young. I
Wow.
didn't,
I mean,
yeah.
so I just want to foot stomp that for people that are out there to appreciate how significant that is. To be a general counsel of a large, like a company like that, so early in your career, is really huge. That speaks volumes to your own curiosity, to your knowledge, and obviously you're just a sponge. You're sucking all of this up. So you go to be a
Still.
general counsel and you said wireless at this point, working on wireless issues. How long were you doing that for,
Yeah.
and what was the next thing?
Yeah. Well, and what was interesting about it was I was hired because I was an expert in wireless regulation and the particular kind of wireless they were going to use to build out networks. And this is the 2.5 gigahertz spectrum, to the extent anybody cares, that it's really the reason why T-Mobile acquired Sprint, just because that spectrum is going to be used to build out 5G across the country.
Okay.
It's an amazing amount of spectrum, and it's great spectrum in terms of its propagation characteristics. So we built that company, and while I was hired to do, I was hired because I was expert in this area. That ended up being a tiny, tiny bit of what I was doing. We started acquiring other wireless systems. So I was doing mergers and acquisitions. We went out for our public financing. So, we went out for high yield debt and our, S1 registration statement. We didn't end up going public because the pricing fell apart like right in the end. And this is one of the perils of being in a new industry. as a startup, your peer companies, to the extent they've already gone public, if they're not meeting their expectations and what they say they're going to meet in any quarter, the market punishes everybody else in that space.
Mm.
And so that's kind of what was happening. Luckily for us, we had great investors who kept investing in us, and we just kept building systems and increasing our reach, and then starting to offer wireless broadband services. This is way back in the day, wireless downstream and telephone return, if you can believe that, but that's what we did. And built that company to a decent subscribership, and then in '99 sold it to Sprint. So at that time in '99, WorldCom and Sprint were acquiring all the companies in our space, and so we were one of them.
Oh, wow. Now, what happened to you then during this acquisition? Did you work for Sprint or did you go somewhere else?
Yeah, no, I could have. They offered me a position to join their team in Kansas City. But I was still a really young lawyer. I was 31 at that point, and felt that while I could obviously have success in doing this at Sprint because they wanted to hire me to do the thing that I was very expert in,
Yeah,
but I wasn't going to grow very much as a result of that.
right.
I wanted to have an experience where I wouldn't be pigeonholed into doing one thing. So I joined Morrison and Foerster and started really expanding the technologies I was learning about and working on. So instead of just this one piece of spectrum, working on like PCS, which was sort of the beginning of these mobile networks, fiber optic deals, tower deals. I just started to really branch out and to learn how to do deals in all different kinds of technologies, and of course the regulatory stuff that goes along with that. So then I was there for 5 years, Morrison and Foerster, and then moved my practice to Patton Boggs, where that's really where my law firm leadership started. So obviously I was a leader as part of the executive team at this company that we built and sold. I was
Right.
the only woman on that executive team.
Oh, wow.
There was an amazing group of people, though. Really, really enjoyed that experience. And then when I got to Patton Boggs, they had a telecom practice. It was very, very small, and they wanted me to lead it. And I said no, because there was somebody more senior, a man who was more senior, who I felt that he really was owed that position. And Ira Fishman, who's the COO of the NFL Players Association now, he was there. He was our COO at that law firm at that
Oh, wow.
time. And he said, no, you're the right person. I know it's scary. You can do it. We're going to be here to support you, but we really want you to lead this and grow it. And I did. And that was
Wow.
a lot, right? I mean, it's a lot as a young lawyer when you're still just trying to figure out your own stuff, much less
Yeah.
how to build and lead a practice. But I love building things, which I learned as general counsel, right? So so we built it into a very successful practice.
And at some point you hop over to Akin Gump. I don't know
Yep.
where that is on the timeline, but I'd love to. Our time is flying by, Jennifer. I can't believe it, but I really just I want to make sure we cover kind
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
like, because we've got some amazing pictures of some of the incredible things
Oh,
you've
yeah, yeah,
done
yeah.
over the
Yeah,
last several years there.
yeah.
So was that the next step on the career train, or
It
yeah?
was. Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
I was at Patton Boggs for 10 years, and I ended up, leading the technology, media, and telecom practice. I was also co-chair of the public policy department, which at that point was #1 in DC. And then I became a member of the executive committee of the firm. We merged the firm with Squire Sanders, and after that happened, then I joined Akin Gump, and I've been here for 8 years. And so so I think the pictures you have are of some of the really interesting work and trips and speeches I've had the chance to do. So this one at Climate One, this was about whether communities are ready for flying cars. And so you see Joe Ben from Joby there. That was a really interesting event out in San Francisco. yeah, speaking at those kinds of forums with people from all different disciplines is, again, a great way of learning and continuing to stoke that curiosity.
By the way, everybody, Jennifer was one of our panelists for the Law Tech Connect workshop we held at AVSI Exponential last year. Akin Gump was one of our sponsors, so really appreciate that. And fun fact, everybody, AVSI is going to be putting up all of those sessions on their new AVIL platform here shortly, so keep your eyes peeled for that. You've done some really cool international travel too. Working in Saudi Arabia and some other things. And I know we've got some really amazing pictures of that. So
Yeah.
tell us what this one is.
So this is me with a couple of my colleagues here from Akin Gump. We were in Saudi Arabia and we were working on the very beginnings of the work for NEOM, which is a massive greenfield smart cities project in Saudi Arabia. And this was a night that we went out to have dinner in downtown. It was, amazing.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And there's another picture, I think, with you with like an eagle or a bird of prey. Here we go.
Yeah. So
Tell us about this one.
Yeah, so sometimes when you go on international trips, you get to have a little fun too. In fact, the person who arranged this just walked by my office a minute ago. He runs our Dubai office. So we were in Dubai. I was working on Quest Arabia, which is a brand new Arab programming channel that was created there between Image Nation and Discovery Networks. And we were working on all of the distribution channels for this programming. And anyway, there's a ton of work over a long period of time, but one day we had the chance to go out and do some falconry, which was, amazing. Yeah, the Middle East is a really fun place to visit for work. So interesting culturally. So much is changing there. And I always, when I'm coming home from those trips, of course, I'm anxious to get home to my family, but I'm always thinking how amazing the world is.
Well, I know we have one more photo. I don't want to roll that yet. I want you just raised family, and I want to talk about that for a second
Yeah.
because just even from early on in your career and the course of law school, juggling the legal degree, the master's, and then, not one internship, right, but like two, and then really three, you juggle a lot. And I love asking people this question because with high performing leaders like you, Jennifer, I think it's very hard to have balance in your life. And I'm just curious, do you feel like you have it? And if so, how have you achieved it? And if not, what would you tell others, like any lessons learned about that?
Yeah. So I don't put the pressure on myself to feel balance. I mean, I feel balanced in myself, but I don't put pressure on myself for my life to be balanced, whatever that means to whoever else is,
Right. Sure.
observing it. I think if you want it all, you have to do it all. And if you and you have to find a way to fit it in, and you can, and you will. And the most important thing is that you stay fit, because it can be exhausting. There's a lot going on. If you've got a busy career and you're working a lot of hours, you've got children that you're raising, and they, of course, need all of the attention that you can give them. My mother, who's 89, also lives with us, and she needs help and attention. Not to mention my husband and the dog, right? So,
Yeah.
but I work to love all of it, and I work at all of it. So, like, this weekend was bonkers. My little boy said a couple weeks ago that he had never been to the Washington Monument. So we got tickets to go to the Washington Monument, and that was like first thing on the hit parade on Saturday. We had to get the house ready because my daughter's having a birthday party, homecoming party next weekend. So we were, getting the house ready. I then had a long conversation with a girlfriend who's recovering from cancer, and then I had to go off to band practice. That was Saturday. And then on
Gosh.
on Sunday, I had to get my little boy up to the cathedral because he sings with the choristers, and then with another woman, we threw a picnic for 130 people up on the cathedral grounds for the 6th grade over at St. Albans, right? And then I had to get back online and do a bunch of work for my real job because, clients are trying to get deals done, and I promised to get some things done before the end of the weekend. So yeah, it's a lot, but if you keep your energy up, and I think just kind of commit yourself to love it all and do it all, you can do it, right? And I think a positive attitude, can-do attitude, is essential.
Yeah, love it all, do it all. Wow. Yeah, I think you got to love what you do, and clearly you do, because if you don't, there's no way you can do what you just said, right?
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm stealing that phrase, love it all, do it all. It's amazing. So I'm just exhausted listening to that story about your weekend, Jennifer. Here I'm like, people always say to me, like, I don't know where you find the time, but I had a lot of downtime this week because, this cold or whatever I've got going on. Sometimes like getting sick like forces you to like just chill out and do nothing.
That's healthy
Which
too.
yeah, that's how it happens, I guess. But all right, we are so close on time.
Yeah.
So um I have a lightning round of 3 questions I like to ask everybody at the end. We're gonna do that. But before we do, do you have any announcements, hypothetically speaking, about some upcoming projects maybe that you're working on? Um,
Well, most of our work is confidential.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Did you want to talk about the podcast?
oh yeah. Our group is working with you all on some really interesting technology focused podcasts that's not just legal advice, right? And
Yes.
bringing in the lawyers who are doing the really important work on new innovations, and then the business leaders who also are working on that, in order to help bring to our technology community some interesting observations and learnings as we're working along. So yeah, you've got some great speakers from our group coming up. I'm really excited about that. When is the first one?
Yeah, so Thursday, October 13th, everybody mark your calendars now, 9 a.m. Mountain, 11 a.m. Eastern. We're going to be kicking off the very first Tech Talks podcast, sponsored by Akin Gump, and it will involve, as Jennifer said, some, industry leaders with some of the incredible lawyers from her practice, and really that nexus of technology and law, and really getting into deep discussions about not only the technologies that are out there, but then the regulations that we really need to like effectuate them. So I'm really excited about that. So stay tuned for more there, everybody. But we're going to do our lightning round, and then that's all she wrote. Excuse me. All right, Jennifer, what is your favorite book?
So the book that I read over and over is The Road Less Traveled by Scott Peck.
Mm, good one. All right, who's your hero and why?
I don't have one hero. My heroes are every person who gets up every day to serve others with a smile on their face. And there
Oh,
are lots of them, right? But kudos to all the people in the building who are working, all of our teachers, our first responders. Um, you know, those are my heroes.
I love that. And last but not least, is there one leadership tip that you learned along the way that you would like to leave others with as we close out today?
Yeah, and this is something I ascribe to. Um, I don't know that everybody would agree with this perspective. And I think what's interesting is I've actually been sort of warned off it by one of our mutual colleagues from NASA. But, the world has become a rough place, can be a very rough and cynical place. I was told by one of our NASA colleagues that I'm too kind. And I said to him, I don't see it that way. I think being good to people um, is a show of strength. It's not a show of weakness. And if people are to take advantage of that, right? Good luck. Good luck trying to take advantage of me, because I'm not always kind, but I always lead with kindness and generosity and strength of spirit. And I really think that that is important because it's hard what we do every day. These days are long, right?
Yes.
So it's important to feel good, to help other people feel good, and to try to help everybody to reach their highest potential. So so that's my philosophy.
Lead with kindness. I love that. And of course, with curiosity. We've just heard Jennifer Richter's journey throughout her life and her career. Clearly, you've excelled at everything you've done, and we're really thankful, Jennifer, for you taking this time to talk about all of these things with us. I know I'm the richer for it, so I really appreciate you. And really, that's all she wrote. So thank you, everybody.